The mythical observation tower over at La Ronde, called La Spirale, will be dismantled in November. It's the third ride at La Ronde to be taken down since 2017. La Ronde says the costs of upgrading, estimated at several $millions, as well as the overly expensive maintenance, makes it impossible to keep running. But what about the heritage of La Spirale? Is it worth saving? Let's go to Dinu Bumbaru, Director of Policy at Heritage Montreal. Dinu, welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Give me the history of La Spirale. Why is it so special?
Well, the expo as a whole was a very special moment. There's a strong belief that this was a moment in which Montreal, Quebec, and Canada opened to the world in the modern times, because in the 19th century, Montreal was very well connected through the shipping line and so on, and the migration movement. But this time was the sort of the age of optimism. And the construction of La Ronde was not necessarily. It's interesting to see that next to a universal exhibition like Expo, they connected an attraction site like La Ronde, which was, the name La Ronde comes from a small island that existed on the site that was excavated to create essentially what the Lac des Cygnes is today, the Swan Lake, in the middle. Mm-hmm. They took the ground of it and they reversed it to make the island around it. And so it's an interesting component. In the in 2001, I believe, the city of Montreal ceded La Ronde exploitation for a long lease to Six Flags, an American corporation, following a call for tender. And since then, well, we've seen some evidence of that project, of that process, in terms of the loss of some of the iconic games.
Yeah, and of course the Pitoon, right, in 2017, yes. The mini rail in 2022.
And now the Spirale.
Yeah.
Now, of course, these are corporate decisions and there are technical issues, but La Spirale, personally, I've never been there, and I have issues with height, but that's personal. But I think it's a bit of a landmark. You don't need to go up the tower of the Olympic Stadium to feel that this is a reference in the landscape, or go to the top of Mount Royal. The Spirale has got its presence, its surrounding, and I don't know who's in charge of this site. That's one of the questions. Is the city of Montreal, which can be very, very sort of minutious when it comes to reviewing balcony railings and things like that.
Yeah.
How do they deal with such a structure, which is iconic? How do they deal with the heritage of Expo 67? We know in 2007, the city of Montreal designated St. Helens Island as a heritage site, but they refused to include La Ronde for some political reasons, and that's unfortunate. So what's the oversight?
Yeah, and I'm just wondering, because if you're Six Flags, you run amusement parks across North America, I don't think the business is doing particularly well, and you've got some structures here that are very costly because they're so particular, and now you're dealing with parts that are 50 years old. So, a part of me says, well, geez, how do you keep up these structures without going through enormous costs? And even for the city of Montreal, let's say the city of Montreal said, we'll handle it. I don't even know if it's a good use of taxpayer money.
That's, there's the issue of the taxpayers' money, but there's also the issue of the professional skills to do so. I mean, look at the natatorium in Verdun. Fortunately, the city reviewed its first decision, which was to go for wiping it out and reprinting part of it. But they've following the citizen pressure, they're saving the natatorium. But it's to say, as the city of Montreal, the technical skills, the in-house expertise to deal with the structure. I mean, the Spirale is one of a kind. It's not like a lamppost or a park bench. It's rather complex, and that's why the issue is not necessarily to have some other people run the site, but to understand what's the decision process. Who's making a decision on this? Is there any sort of consideration for the heritage aspect? When the Pierre Bourque administration ceded the Ronde site to Six Flags, we intervened. We asked for some kind of oversight, and they told us, "Oh, don't worry. There's a sculpture there by Gladstone, the artist, and it's going to be kept." And frankly, we look at the way it's been handling since. we had to do some great effort, and Six Flags was quite receptive at the time to save the manège, the merry-go-round, which is another piece of heritage. That merry-go-round at La Ronde dates from 1895.
Mm-hmm.
So it's there's a diversity of heritage structure in there, and we still don't know who's running the show.
Is there another way to keep that heritage alive other than keeping those structures, expensive structures, in place?
Well, personally, I wouldn't like it to be saved through a web page or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would be unfortunate. We need real places. Is there a way to get other kind of people involved? Is Six Flags still interested? What's their future plan? We don't know. Maybe the future. Having a discussion at least on that will make perhaps decision more understandable than just a press communique that says we're going to pull it down now.
Those other rides, Le Pitune and the mini rail, was anything saved from that? Or has anything gone to a museum or anything like that?
Maybe fragments. I don't know. The mini rail. There might be something at Expo Rail.
Uh-huh.
To be honest, there is a very active Expo 67 fan base in Montreal, and they might be involved and knowledgeable about this.
Dino, we have to leave it there. I want to thank you so much for coming on today. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
I'm Dylan Playfair.
And I'm Tyler Smith.
We're putting loneliness in the penalty box by talking to some of our favorite athletes about the importance of friendship.
This is Bromance.
Bromance is brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers, proudly Canadian-owned and operated. Charm has been part of your love stories and bromances for over 50 years. And you can find Bromance on the iHeartRadio network or wherever you get your podcasts.